this to, and leaving and becoming the exemplar, right, for us. That yes, even his marriages are considered to be, because his being is a spiritual being. Therefore, there is metaphysical transparency, which phenomena then assures, because Prophet says that I have never seen anything without seeing Allah in it. Whatever the Prophet is seeing, he's saying, I have seen nothing but Allah in it. And this echoes with Amirul Mu'mineen as well. Amirul Mu'mineen also mentions that Ma ra'aytu shayyan, qablahu Allah, ba'dahu Allah, ma Allah. I have seen everything. Before that thing I saw Allah. After that thing I saw Allah. With that thing I saw Allah. And I saw nothing but Allah. Right? So the Prophet also have mentioned this, right? Obviously, this is how the connection is, right? The Prophet also says that, right? So therefore the marriages of the Prophet, yes, indeed it was a political, it has that political element as well. But at the same time, the married life of the Prophet have not removed him from night vigils, have not removed him from poverty. Because he says that the greatest title that I have is faqir. He says, I'm faqir. And he says, this is the best title. This is the best laqab of me. I am faqir of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the true reality of insan. Ya ayyuhan nas antumul fuqara ila Allah. Inna Allah ghaniyul hamid. Oh people, you are faqir. The faqr of us, the poverty of us, like I said, in the earlier days, is the essential reality of us. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr. Our khusran, our poverty is in our essence, is in our wujud. Is in our wujud. Just like how 3 is an odd number. You cannot separate the oddness of 3 from 3. The same way our faqr cannot be separated. We are faqir. We come in this dunya crying, asking. And if we don't cry and ask, the doctor will beat us so that we cry. Right? And that is nothing but the symbolic reality of dua. Right? We come in this dunya by doing dua. And we die in this dunya by doing najwa. Because when we are dying, we are whispering. There's no strength. We whisper, we do najwa, we do munajat. And in between what we do nutba. So there is dua, nutba and najwa. And this is the life of man. Right? And nutba is calling loudly, it's nida. And that's why when we are born, it is azan and iqama, and we pray all our life, to the point where they pray on us. This is my Salatul Mayyat. So the whole life of man is nothing but ma khalaqtul jinna wal insa illa liya'budun. Right? So therefore the essential reality of us, of human being, is nothing but faqr. We are faqir. Right? And the Prophet, that's why he says that, I love this title of abd. And I'm abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the greatest title. وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا عَبْدُهُ. And then we say Rasul. If a person is true abd, then the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will shine in the heart of that person. That he is nothing. He has nothing of himself. He is faqir. And Allah is the ghani. So the ghina and the richness and the hidayat shines through a person who is nothing. Right? And if the heart is the mirror, and if we clean that heart, that's where the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will shine and will be given to others. So the Prophet, although he engaged himself into all of the worldly activities, and the engagement of his worldly activities was to its full, meaning that he never, chalta. You know what I mean? There wasn't like that for him. It's okay, chalega, do something. No. They were making a grave and they were just making it like very loose. That they didn't really care about it. Prophet said, no, make it proper. Right? Live in this world as if you're going to live forever. Prepare for the hereafter as if you're going to die tomorrow. Every actions of the Prophet he was a perfectionist. Right? And that's what we find. What we see in terms of Islam today is nothing that comes out of the Prophet. The art and beauty that we have in art and architecture of Islam, the symmetry, the asymmetry that we have, in the art, in the mosque and so on and so forth. Islam is nothing but the manifestation of the wujud, of the existence of the Prophet itself, right? That's why you Prophet have two, side to his personality. One, he was a legislator. He gave law. And the other was the esoteric and the spiritual reality of the Prophet. So exoteric and esoteric. The exoteric reality, which is taken by our Sunni brothers, where there are so much emphasis of the law, very peculiar about it. Sometimes going to the extent, right, to the extreme. And then you have the Shia aspect, have the aspect of love, right? So you have the risala of the Prophet, which is the ahkam and rules and laws and so on and so forth, right? Which is known to them as the Quran is enough, right? Then you have the nafs of the Prophet, the nafs and the jan of the Prophet, which is the Ahlul Bayt, which is the love, that aspect of the Prophet. And that's what we see in terms of the reality of Islam today. It has these two aspects. But the point is that we have to balance, as the Masumeen, as the Imams balanced both, the aspect of the Quran, and also that's why they said that, I'm leaving behind you two things, the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt, and they will not separate with each other till they meet me. So we also have the aspect of the risala and the legislative aspect as well, the sunnah of the Prophet as well. So now Prophet was somebody who was extensively engaged and involved with the dunya, and he would be perfect in doing things. As the Confucius says, that if the mat is not proper, the king will not sit. That's why in Confucianism they are very symmetrical. Master Confucius, he was a believer in God. He was a Unitarian, and they asked him about the life of the hereafter. He says, "Let me crawl first, and then I'll talk about the hereafter." That's why he focused upon practicality, and that's what China is China today in terms of its, preciseness in things, because China was fighting with each other, warlords, so on and so forth. Then the Confucius came, and he was a teacher, right? A teacher of akhlaq, right? And then he established. So he says that if the mat is not proper, the king will not sit. So that's why everything is so symmetrical, right? And Prophet was like that in terms of the perfection. He wants everything to reach to its perfection, to its kamal, whether that be a relationship, whether that be a house, whether that be, what the sunnah of the Prophet is. Imagine, which I mentioned, that the Prophet brushes teeth 3 times at night. I mean, that's like hygiene we are talking about. You know what I mean, right? The tabib, the doctors in Medina, they had to shut their shops. They said, why? Because the Prophet is here and his advices are so good for the health of the people, right? So nobody was getting ill as such. That's why this tibba wa imma is fascinating, that is there, right? Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So there is this metaphysical transparency in the life of the Prophet. So when Prophet is having these marriages, there is that metaphysical transparency there. I'm emphasizing on it, and this is, can clearly be, seen as these marriages have the spiritual side to it. Apart from being political as well, it has that spiritual side to it, which can be considered in other faiths as the tantric practice, which is through tantra they reach God, right? Through that relationship and communion, which will make them reach God. It's part and parcel of our human nature, of human life, of human lives. And there's nothing to deny that and nothing to be shy away with. These are the things that requires us to discuss and understand. When, na'udhu billah, people are pointing fingers on the Prophet and saying, na'udhu billah, he was a womanizer, excuse me, right? That's not the case. There's a spiritual angle to this. And why the Prophet he himself have mentioned that from this world I love 3 things. It's a very famous hadith, and Ibn Arabi in Fususul Hikam. Fususul Hikam is one of the texts in Irfan that is taught in the Hawzas, Ilmiyas, in Qom, by, and every grand scholar have written commentary on it. Aghay Hasan Zade Amali, Aghay Jawad Amali, Imam Khomeini, they have written commentary on it. on Fusus al-Hikam. It's one of the last works that they do uh, in public, meaning that openly. There are other works of Ibn Arabi, such as Futuhatul Makkiyah, which is very fascinating text, which they do it secretly. It's not for everybody. For Fusus al-Hikam as well, when we were studying, we have to get a permission from the teacher, a letter from the teacher to the office to get the tapes, to listen to their tapes. You have to have a ijaza for that. So it's a very deep text. So in Fususul Hikam, Ibn Arabi discusses this hadith of the Prophet, which is, from this world, I love three things. One is perfume, the other is women, and the third is the prayers, salat, which is the apple of my eye, qurratu ayn, salat, and which belongs to the transcendental reality of the Prophet, which belongs to the spiritual side of the Prophet, right? Which is salat, connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when it comes to the dunya, you have the element of fragrance, which is once again very latif, very subtle. You have the salat, and then that is purely spiritual. Then something that is little bit less of spirit, you have the fragrance, khushbu. And then after that, the latafat in this dunya is women. Have that latif quality. It's subtle in their nature, right? They are pure, right? That's why they tend to manifest two realities of femininity. And that is one of what you call magnanimity, honor, courage, strength. And the other is of martyrdom, of shahada. And that is reflected in the hadith of the Prophet, that there are four women who will enter the paradise first, who are known to be the best of women. Amirul Mu'mineen says, these four women, who are they? There's Maryam, salamullah alayha, there is Asiya, and there is Khadija, and there is Fatima. All these four have a symbolic feminine reality to them, as they reflect two major realities. As the Prophet says, I love women, because of these two major reality that they have within themselves. One is the martyrdom, is the shahada, right? And there are two of those, Asiya and Fatima. These two were shaheed. Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh, right? She never gave up, Tawheed. She never gave up belief in Allah. She never believed in Pharaoh to be the Rabb. And she was persecuted, she was imprisoned, and she was killed eventually. She stood fast on the Iman that she has. That's why the Iman of Asiya. And then you have Siddiqa Kubra, Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha, who is the criteria of Haqq and Batil to the maximum. Right? The way she has divided where is the Haqq and where is Batil. By being a woman, by not being outside, but by herself, by her resolve. And she's Shahida. Right? And then you have Maryam, and Khatija, in terms of that courage, in terms of that support, in terms of that honor. Right? So these are the two manifestations of that one feminine, of that femininity, that manifests out in regards to them. And that's why, Khatija salamullah alayha, now I'll discuss a bit about her as we have reached the point, and we will still discuss in regards to the Prophet tomorrow. Salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Because she was known even at the time before marriage amongst the Arabs as Tahira. One of the titles she had was Tahira. And she was a Muwahid, meaning that she was a Muslim. She believed in the religion of Hazrat Ibrahim, just like how Hazrat Abu Talib and Abdul Muttalib and Khatija salamullah alayha and the Prophet, they all go back to the same grandfather, which is Abdul Manaf. They came from the same grandfather. So Khatija salamullah alayha was already known as Tahira amongst them, amongst the Arabs at that time. And she was someone who have followed the Deen Ibrahimi, and this was very apparent and very clear because she made interest haram, because she was known to be somebody who used to do tijara, she would do business. And all of the polytheist Arabs, they were into all sorts and all types of business. And that's why, people will be doing Hajj naked. The reason why people used to do Hajj naked was that there was a monopoly of those Arabs, and they said that whoever comes to do Hajj from outside, they have to buy the ihram in Makkah. They cannot buy ihram anywhere from outside. Something what is happening right now, right? $17,000 for Hajj. It's a jahiliyyah right now, right? Very similar, right? So the Arabs at that time also said that, they have to buy the ihram from Makkah. They cannot buy ihram from any other places, Pakistan or India, and bring, which is cheap there. They will sell it very expensively. So poor people who would come, they don't have money, so they will go naked, right? So, so therefore, the Arabs would follow these type of jahiliyyah, policies to benefit themselves, to make themselves rich. They would not care about, the underdogs, right? What we see, some of those things, the Kausar Niazi marhum have that Maulud Kaaba. He gave that beautiful share, may Allah bless his soul and the bless of all those sincere shu'ara, inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So then you have Hazrat Khadija's action and her being in the Quran. وَوَجَدْنَاكَ عَائِلًا فَأَغْنَى. Allah says that we found you, O Prophet, in need, and we made you ghani through the, through the rich and contributions of Khadija salamullah alayha. Quran uses that. She is the reference of that. Alam yajidka yatiman fa'awa. Surah Daha. When you were yatim, we took care of you. Who took care of when Prophet was yatim? It was no one but Abu Talib alayhi salam. Right? So the action of Abu Talib, Allah is saying, is my action. Just like how Allah says, وَمَا رَمَيْتُ إِذْ رَمَيْتُ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. The action of the Prophet is my action. So here, the action of Abu Talib, because Abu Talib have reached to the level of Insan Kamil, where his action is considered as the action of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the contribution of Khadija salamullah alayha is considered as, when we find you in need, we are the one who make you ghani, right? And that's Khadija did. And as a matter of fact, the contribution of Khadija salamullah alayha is very similar to, it echoes the verse of the Quran where it talks about Hazrat Maryam, where it says that, it says that in regards to Hazrat Maryam, that فَقَبَّلَهَا رَبُّهَا بِقَبُولٍ حَسَنٍ. Hazrat Maryam's actions are not accepted, her ibadat and her services, right? Because if actions are accepted, our amal is accepted, there is a reward for this action. If you do this, if you fast one fast in the month of Rajab, 70,000, whatever, reward, or so on and so forth, right? It's our action, and in return of action, you have a reward. But the ayah doesn't say that the actions of Maryam. It says that, Maryam herself is accepted by Allah. Imagine, leave aside her actions. Maryam herself is accepted. Rabbuha biqabulin. Maryam is accepted. Now, when Maryam is accepted, Isa is given. When Khatija is accepted, Fatima is given. Right? So that is the reality. So in regards to Hazrat Khatija salamullah alayha, not only her actions, her services, but herself. Why? Because she is the grandmother of 11 Imams. She has the honor of that. And that's why on the day of Ashura itself, Imam Hussein, when he will give a sermon, he says that my grandmother is Khatija. She brings the name of Khatija salamullah alayha on the day of Ashura. She talks about it, right? In the same way as there's an ayah of the Quran, An-Nabi awla bil mu'minin min anfusihim. Nabi is awla, has a priority than all of our nafs for the mu'minin. An-Nabi awla bil mu'minin min anfusihim wa azwajahu ummahatuhum. And the azwaj of the Nabi are considered as the ummahat, are the mothers of all of the mu'mineen, right? They are the mother. And Hazrat Khatija salamullah alayha is the one who had the honor to be the first mother. She was the first wife of the Prophet. Sallallahu alaihi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So Imam Hussein mentioned her and he quoted Al Muqarribun as Sabiqun verse. When he says the verse of Al Muqarribun, the near ones are the Sabiqun. And he says, and he brings the name of Khatija Salamullah alayha in regards to that who she was, right? So she represented that aspect of honor, dignity, strength, and courage for the Prophet, as we talked about these four women, right? Right. So that's why the Prophet, when he's saying that he, from this world, he loved women, it is that aspect, that spiritual angle, the spiritual aspect of, as well there, because they tend to represent and they tend to be the best partner for the Prophet to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through them, through the azwaj, through the companion. Allah looks at the divine beauty of Allah, right? And she was the perfect role model for that. She has reached that kamal and apex of it. And as a matter of fact, definitely, if she was alive at the time of Ayat Athir, it will not be that Prophet would not say, you cannot come in here. She would definitely be there. And that's why in some of the du'as, you have Fatimata wa abiha wa baleha wa baniha wa ummaha as well. And also the mother is also been mentioned in order to, connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Because when you look at the levels of the the realms that are metaphysical, that are spiritual, as it descends on the highest level, you have the jalal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you have the jamal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the jamal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is nothing but the femininity that exists in the abstract world. And from that femininity comes into this world, it becomes a female. And that you have that masculinity, which is the jalal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be reflected in the masculinity. When that waters down, when that comes to this physical world, that becomes the male. So the male is the manifestation of that jamal on the outward sense, but within them they have jamal too, right? And the female have the manifestation of the jamal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and within them they have the jalal. That's why Khatija Salamullah alayha, she manifested that Jamal Ilahi, but within her, she has that Jalal of supporting the Prophet, right? Of taking this mission of the Prophet and providing that help to the Prophet, being the strength of the Prophet. The same way as Siddiqa Kubra, she was the strength of Ali, right? From inside. Outwardly, yes, the Jalal. Ali is the epitome of justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But within, inside, what is that strength? That is Fatima. That is Khatija for the Prophet, which made Islam reach where it has reached today. We all are indebted, and how sad it is today that among all of the followers of the Prophet, there is a group of people who really uphold her and at least have a day of mourning and gathering and remembering Khatija salam. We are lucky. We are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that our parents, our seniors have taught us, have made us aware of Khatija and how to respect her and to have a day, designated in the month of Ramadan. And what a great ibadat of all ibadat that we remember her in the month of Ramadan. Salawat ala Muhammad. And how the suffering of the Shoaib Abi Talib, the suffering of 3 years of sanction, there was 3 years of sanction, that the Muslims were not allowed to have any sort of relationship, any sort of transaction, any sort of trade for 3 years, which made really difficult for the Muslims at that time in the valley of Abi Talib. And they stayed there and they stationed there. And there were, attacks. There were security towers around the Shoaib Abi Talib that Muslims used to guard, because, there were ambushed, there were attacks taking place upon the Muslims as well at that time. They were persecuted because they were following the religion of Islam. They were following the religion of Tawheed. They were against the polytheism and the monopoly that the Arabs of the Jahiliyyah that they have, right? In this intense amount of persecution, the 3 years made Khatija salam alaiha ill. And the social pressure, the economical pressure, really made her sick. And because of that, she said labbaik to the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as we know that there are some narrations which indicate in regards to the kafan of her, 5 were brought, right? One was for the Prophet, Imam Hassan, Imam Ali, Bibi Fatima. There was no kafan for Hussein. And there was the 5th one was for Khatija salam alayha. Special kafan, special hunut came from the heaven for her. And now these things, we may sound like something that is like a fantasy, so to speak. Oh, kafan coming from there. No, these are reality. And these realities could be explained from a philosophical and mystical angle. As we are talking about the spiritual world, the barzakh, the alam barzakh, and then when those things, they reach to this world, in that form, they become a shroud. And shroud is a special mercy and a special covering, which is symbolized as a white cloth that every person should be folded and placed in this world under the ground, right? The representation of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the color of white, because the throne have 4 colors, as they say. I missed that hadith. When we were discussing the imama, there's the color of red, there's a color of green, there's a color of yellow, and there is a color of white. These are the 4 colors that are there, which the throne sits, or which the throne have. And all of these colors have symbolism. The red represents Hussein, the green represents Hassan, the white represents the Rasul, and the yellow represents the Amirul Mu'mineen. That's why when he used to go, fight, he would put on a yellow amama. You know what I mean? Right? That's a representation of that. And all of these colors have representation in terms of his phenomena, in terms of his reality, such as justice, mercy, knowledge, martyrdom, is reflected in these realities. But I was thinking that one color is not mentioned, which is the color of no color, and that is Siddiqa Kubra Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha. That's why perhaps she is known as a very mysterious being. Wama adraka ma Fatima, just as Wama adraka ma Laylatul Qadr. When they ask the 6th Imam, do you know what Fatima is? Fatima is Laylatul Qadr. Nobody can understand and comprehend what Laylatul Qadr is, and that is Fatima, right? So you have these representation of these colors. Well, they are Ali Abba is 5. There's only 4. Why not another color? That is that, right? So therefore, Sallallahu Alaihi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I will take just very briefly in regards to one of the swiftest vehicle for us to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the vehicle of, the musibat of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, right? Through remembering the musibat of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, we connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are reminded of the pains and the trials and tribulations and the sacrifices they have gone through in this world. Khadija suffered a lot, and it wasn't easy for the Prophet. Prophet, he himself shrouded. Prophet, he himself, went into the grave, prayed on Khadija salamullah alayha. And when we look at what happened to the daughter of the Prophet, that at least when Khadija died, Prophet was there to give the shroud, right? But how Ali, when he was bathing, when he was giving ghusl to Fatima, the children asked, oh Baba, when you were giving ghusl to Fatima, you were crying loudly. When you were giving ghusl to our mother, you were crying loudly. Why were you crying loudly, oh father? Ali says that Fatima had so many wounds on her body that she did not even inform me the wounds that she had. The broken ribs. Wahid Khurasani says that when a little bone is broken and when you move that bone, the whole body hurts. Imagine the ribs of Fatima were broken, and imagine every breath that she takes, it hurts Fatima salamullah alayha. The amount of, that's why Fatima says, Subbat al masaib law annaha subbat al ayyam sirna layali. The masaib that befell on Fatima were of such a of such, heavy, that if this Masai would have fallen on the day will turn into night. The amount of Masaib. One of the Masaib of Fatima is that when she was shrouded and put on the ground, and Ali asked, "Oh children, come part farewell to the mother." Everybody came, but Hussein was standing at the door. And Hussein says, "I'm not going to come till Fatima calls me, till my mother calls me." Ali says, "Wallah, the knots of the kafan got open, and Fatima raised her hand, and he says, 'Hussein, come to me.'" Because there was a relationship of the father, of the mother and the daughter. When now Fatima calls Hussein, and Hussein calls Fatima on the day of Ashura and says, "Oh mother, the time has arrived that you come now." Allah lanatullah ala qawm al-zalimin, sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayyu munqalibin yanqalibun. بفاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها وسر المستودع فيها بعدد ما أحاط به علمك بمولاتي خديجة الكبرى أم المؤمنين سلام الله عليها. يا الله 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 يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك يا قاضي الحاجات يا كافي المهمات إنك على كل شيء قدير. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة لأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات, especially for all of the marhumin, of the brothers and sisters who are present here, the volunteers, and especially for those who have sponsored the iftar niyaz tonight. Al-Fatiha ma as-salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما لبيك اللهم لبيك اللهم صل على محمد وآل